Web Marketing That Works podcast, episode number 95. Today's guest is Tom Panos.
Welcome to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. Come behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments and listen in as amazing guests confess the truth about what really works. Now, here are your hosts, Adam Franklin and Toby Jenkins.
My name's Adam Franklin, and you are listening to the Web Marketing That Works podcast. This is the show for people who love marketing on the web. You'll be taken behind the scenes of real-life marketing experiments, where we look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. We confess what's failed and reveal the truth about what really works. The show is brought to you by our book, which is also called Web Marketing That Works. And the gift for you, the listener, are the 33 free marketing templates. And you can get your hands on those at bluewiremedia.com.au/book. Today's guest is Tom Panos. He's a real estate coach, and he has his own podcast and his own email newsletter and his own video blog. And he was actually the MC of a roadshow that I did earlier in the year. It's really interesting what he's done because he's grown his email list from, as we'll talk about on the show, but from very little to 17 or 18,000 people, and he'll explain how he's done that on the show. Tom also interviews a whole bunch of different people, especially, mainly his thing is real estate agents, like he coaches people in real estate, and he interviews and showcases agents that are doing it really well. So that's his thing. He does a lot of public speaking and is a prolific content publisher online as well. Just a quick note about the audio on the upcoming interview. I was on quite a busy road when we interviewed it, so hopefully it won't be too disconcerting having the motorbikes and whatnot go past, but just a short word of warning when I'm asking the questions. Sometimes there's a bit of background noise. So with that, let's begin the interview. My name's Adam Franklin, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Tom Panos. How are you, Tom?
Hi, Adam.
Now, in a few years, your online audience has gone from virtually zero to tens of thousands. Can you sort of take us on that journey and explain what it is that you do?
Okay, so on a weekly basis, I send out video blog called Attraction Agent, and I interview real estate agents that are writing $1 million in fees per year, and I send that out to people that subscribe to me. And you're right, it's gone, like I started with no subscribers. Well, when you start, you've got nothing. And as I'm speaking to you, I'm just going on to MailChimp, and it'll tell me I'm at 19,608 as of today in terms of subscribers.
Wow, that really is huge. Now, what is it, do you reckon, that's contributed to that? Like, how are you actually getting people to sign up on your website?
I think, Adam, what it is the content. I've come up with something that I know people want to hear. And what actually happens is that every real estate agent wants to make more money. And what I do is interview agents that are already doing what they want to be achieving. And because I don't charge, it's pretty much a no-brainer. The way that I do it is I do a short video, I get it edited. The day before I put it up online, I get a 2-minute short version of the video, and I upload it onto social media. And then I say to watch the full interview, subscribe to tompanos.com.au. When they click on that, it takes them to a box where I capture their name and email, and they then become a subscriber. Then the day after, the video goes out. So the video generally goes out every Tuesday. So essentially, I use social media as an octopus to go out a couple of days beforehand, and then the subscribers get the full video. And I do make sure that the 2-minute short version of the video that I upload onto social media is very tempting, and it wants them to actually see the whole video.
Nice. Now, what sort of benefits have you seen from doing this weekly email out of these interviews that you've done?
Probably the two main benefits is that it's put me on the shopping list to do a lot of speaking with the real estate industry. And what happens is that people then associate me as being the curator of information, the person that more or less is getting all the research and development done on what best practices in real estate. So if you were to Google real estate coaching, I now come up as the number one search in Google. So it's helped there. The second thing it's done is in the last year and a half, it's allowed me to start leveraging that audience and commercializing it by me actually creating a couple of products, and I sell those products at various times in the year. So from a commercial perspective, it's been speaking and membership revenue from online training programs.
Very interesting. So by simply interviewing a lot of people in your industry, you become the authority, you become the trusted person to curate all that industry information. And at the same time, you've built this audience where you can actually sell products to them. That sounds like there's a lot that we can emulate there. Now, would you imagine that would work for any industry, or do you feel it's just for the real estate industry that would work?
I can only speak for myself in real estate, but I think that if I copied the same template in another category, the results should be pretty identical. And that is that, firstly, you build an audience. Secondly, is you build trust with that audience. And the way you do that is that you constantly add value and ask for nothing off them. Then what you do is you create a product that is valuable, that they want to pay. And because they already trust you and see value in what they're getting for free, they're more inclined to see value in what they've got to pay for. So I would say that someone should be able to do that in any category, because in a world that has got so many options for people, I think people deep down are looking for a trusted source so they can have faith in that one thing. And I think that means that any opportunity for any category should be out there.
Yeah, that's really true. I think that formula you've got of building your audience, developing trust by adding value for free and not asking for anything in return, and then building products that they need and that they want and that are prepared to pay for. That's a phenomenal formula you've got there, Tom. Now let's sort of pivot over to talking about your podcast. It's called $1 Million Agent. Now, it's a different type of content that you're creating there. How's that project been going for you?
So John McGrath, who some of the listeners may know of because he's appeared on two main TV shows. One is Shark Tank and the other one is The Block. He's the CEO of McGrath Estate Agents, and he's both a client and a friend. And he approached me about a year and a half ago and suggested that we create a weekly podcast, which is essentially a free-flowing conversation like John and I are sitting at a cafe. And it goes for about 20 minutes. It's called $1 Million Agent. And that has had a lot of cut through. There's no question about it. The John McGrath brand has even helped me leverage a bigger audience. Also, John McGrath has been able to tap into a lot of my audience, because whilst McGrath's also a TV, recognised as a TV, maybe star's not the right word, but he appears on a number of TV shows. He owns his own real estate brand. So he makes a living out of real estate. And some of, the competitors may not have a closer link to the McGrath brand as what they have with me. So it's been beneficial that we've been able to bring audiences together. So I've been a connector and he's been a connector. And this podcast, which people listen to via the podcast on iTunes, it did really well. It was the first 10, 20 weeks. it was number one and number two for most of the time. And a lot of agents love listening to the fact that it's an authentic, raw conversation, very much like what me and you are doing right here now. And how has it helped me? I think it allows me, when I sell some of my online programs, I'm able to mention the offer on there. It helps me attract more people onto my email list. And it also keeps helping me jabbing away to my existing subscribers, because, Adam, they're getting, like using Gary Vaynerchuk's concept of jab, 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 hook. They're constantly getting lots of jabs from me. They're getting a jab via the video blog. They're getting a jab now via the podcast. So it's all part of the client acquisition strategy and partly a client retention strategy.
Yeah, I love that notion of that jab, 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 right hook, which means, deliver value, and don't actually ask for anything in return. And then eventually you can go for the right hook, which means actually, going for that sale or making an offer that is commercial, which I know you do very well. Now, I've listened to the $1 Million Agent podcast. I really like it. It's just as relevant for non-real estate agents as well, because some of the business philosophies that you and John talk about are across all industries. So I really recommend listeners head over to iTunes and check out $1 Million Agent. Now, Tom, when we were on that recent roadshow for the Better Business Summit, you spoke of a really good story of a real estate agent in Western Sydney who was putting together some information about a highway project. Do you mind retelling that story for us, Tom?
Yeah, so it's actually in Concord, which is in the outer west of the inner west in Sydney. There's a new project by the government being built. It's called the West Connects, and it's basically about getting the western suburbs to be accessible to Sydney better with a new tunnel, which is to be built underneath. Now, this West Connects is in the media constantly, and it does scare a lot of the people that live in the areas that are affected, including Concord. So what this intelligent agent has done is he knows that people are talking about this. He knows that some people actually can't sleep at night because about this, thinking that their value of their home is going to lose significant value. So what he did is he created a report which is what the West Connects will do to the value of your home. So he did what I think is the most important business principle of all, and that is to solve a problem. And once you've solved the problem, people then will actually pay you because they see you as being a trusted advisor. So what he's done is he's created a 12-page booklet that says what the West Connects will do to the value of your home. It says contact Dib to get the copy of the report. They enter their details in. He then sends them a download of the report. This helps the client because they get more information about what the West Connects will do. It also helps him because he then gets the data and improves his email list. He then has a relationship with his email list, and he's then creating an audience. So the key learning there, Adam, is that whenever you produce any content, don't produce content that says, wow, look, I'm great. Produce content that is actually solving a problem. Sometimes the client may know the problem. Other times the client may not know the problem. So you actually articulate what the problem is, and then you also give them the solution. That's what I've noticed in the new connection economy, the real good people are. They're actually solving problems. They're not selling things.
And Tom, do you find that with some of the best real estate agents that come on your podcast? Are they doing similar things in terms of publishing content and creating content to either blogs or podcasts or email newsletters? Is that the sort of common theme with some of these $1 Million agents?
Yes. So the good ones are learning that what worked 5 years ago were to tell people, look how good I am, look how many houses I sold, pick me, I'm the best. People don't like that anymore. What people like is someone that becomes the curator of information that they really care about. So the information's out there. Like from a real estate perspective, between realestate.com and RP Data, the information is out there. What good real estate agents do is get that information that is relevant to that consumer, organize it in a logical, constructive way that the consumer wants to see it in, and then the agent associates their name as the person that's providing that information. And that is then what is giving them positioning as a trusted advisor. The way they do that, Adam, is some do it by doing a monthly video blog, providing an update on what has happened in that marketplace that they operate in. Other times it's something like the agent in Concord that creates a specific report. I myself are basically using the same concept, which is a video blog solving a problem, and that is that most agents are struggling with the income that they're making and they want to make more money. Though having said that, it has been a good real estate period the last 1 or 2 years, so that's been a less profound issue, but they always want to do better. So it's all about creating content. The content can be audio, like a podcast like this. It can be video. It can be in the form of running a monthly seminar. The basic premise is this: find what's keeping people up at night, then create content in a way that you like creating that content, because there's too many people that create content that do it for a month and then stop. So you've obviously, Adam, your podcast, how long's your podcast been going?
We've been going nearly 90, 95 episodes so far in about 14 months.
Okay, so if there's a class, you obviously enjoy doing it and you see value. There are plenty of people that I know that start things but never finish things. Like they'll do 2 or 3 newsletters and then they'll say, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. So one of the key things in selecting the strategy that you're going to provide content is to actually pick something that you like doing, because if you like doing it, you'll keep doing it.
And what are your tips for keeping that momentum going, even if I guess there's sometimes things like podcast editing or video editing or blog editing that may not be that appealing? Have you got any tips for overcoming some of those more technical barriers?
Yeah, I think the way that I have chosen to try and look at things in everything that I do, not just in creating a podcast or a video blog, which, I've been doing my video blog for 5 years, right? What I've learned is never let perfect get in the way of better. I think a lot of the times people actually don't start because what they want to do is actually create the perfect podcast. I think just accept that you'll keep doing it better as you learn. And 80% of winning is actually beginning, so just start. The second thing is that don't become results-oriented. And I know that sounds a little bit weird because you get paid on results, but when you focus on the result, you keep your eyes off the process. So my preference is to worry about the process and the proceeds will come. That's what I'd like to think. So all I do is think to myself, I'm going to do what McDonald's do, and I'm just going to keep making hamburgers even if I don't feel like making a hamburger, because that's the process. And I do that with most areas of my life. So I would say just worry about the process.
Yeah, I love that. I love that advice, Tom. Now, have you got any closing thoughts or final pieces of advice or anything you'd like to get off your chest before we call it a day on this interview?
Yeah, I think I would just say to people that are listening to this that don't do what most people do. And I work for News Corp. I work for a large organisation, so I get a good helicopter view of, behaviours of the way that people operate in the business world. And that is that you know what you know, but you do what you know. I think a lot of people actually don't take action. I think a lot of people actually have the information. I think that, between podcasts like yours, between YouTube, between Google, there is so much information that there's no excuse that someone says, I don't know how to do it. Absolutely, you will learn more about what to do, but there is no reason right now that if you've got something that you're passionate about, that you can't actually take the first step and take the first action. Because what I know is that the first action automatically leads to a second action, which leads to a third action. So I would just urge anyone that's listening that's got something that they're dying to do to not spend too much more time trying to do all the research on it, but to get cracking and incrementally change as you go.
Awesome, Tom. And how can listeners connect with you online?
So my website is tompanos.com.au and they can subscribe, though they might not care about the content if they're not a real estate agent. But if they want to just get a feel about who I am and what I do, they can like my Facebook page, because a lot of the stuff I talk about there is not real estate stuff. It's actually about being happy, positive, and being the best version of you. Twitter, LinkedIn, and I've got a YouTube account. So Tom Panos, TOMPANOS.
And the podcast?
And the podcast is $1 Million Agent. And if they just put in Tom Panos, John McGrath, they can subscribe to the podcast, because as you said, it's actually not just about real estate. It's about being better than what you were yesterday, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, totally. And finally, if people did want to jump onto Tom Panos' site, there is an interview that we did together where we talk about killer digital strategies. So if you Google Tom Panos and Adam Franklin, you'll find the interview there, and you can find out social media and content marketing tips in the interview that I did with you. So Tom, thank you very much for coming on the show. I appreciate all the stuff that you do and all the stuff that you've shared on today's call. You have yourself a good day, and I'll catch up with you again soon.
Thanks a lot, Adam. Thank you for having me on.
Pleasure. And that's a wrap for my chat with Tom Panos. He's doing some interesting stuff with his online marketing, and goes to show that there's lots of people outside of our own little marketing bubble that are applying these exact content marketing principles and using them to grow their audience and to grow trust with that audience, and then to actually turn that into commercial outcomes. Like for Tom, it was speaking engagements, and he's selling his online programs as well. So really valuable insights that he shared on that chat. So this podcast is brought to you by our book, which is also called Web Marketing That Works. And of course, if you would like to get your hands on the templates from the book, head to bluewiremedia.com.au/book. And if you've got any feedback or questions or anything else for that matter, please drop me an email. I'm available at adam.franklin@bluewiremedia.com.au, or tweet me. Franklin_Adam is my Twitter handle. If you liked this show, and I hope you did, I'd love it if you could head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. Thank you, and I will see you on the next show. Cheers.